Have you ever caught yourself replaying a conversation in your head for hours? Or lying awake at 3 a.m., going over every possible outcome of a decision that doesn't even matter that much? If you've ever asked yourself, why do I overthink everything? Then this video is for you. In today's world, where our minds are constantly flooded with information, expectations, and pressure to perform, overthinking has become more common than ever. But what exactly causes it? Why does your brain feel like it's stuck on repeat mode, analyzing every tiny detail until you're exhausted, anxious, or just plain numb? The truth is, overthinking isn't just a bad habit. It's often rooted in deeper psychological patterns, past experiences, and even survival mechanisms. And while it might feel impossible to break free from this cycle, understanding why you overthink everything is the first step toward taking back control of your mind. In this video, we'll dive deep into the science and psychology behind overthinking. We'll explore the emotional triggers, the role of anxiety, how perfectionism fuels the loop, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Whether you're someone who overthinks relationships, decisions, conversations, or your entire life, this video will give you real insights and practical strategies to start calming your mind today. So if you're ready to stop living inside your head and start living your life, keep watching. Overthinking is not a flaw. It's not a weakness. It's not something you should be ashamed of. In fact, many people who overthink are highly intelligent, deeply empathetic, and incredibly self-aware. But when those same traits become overwhelming, they can trap you in a cycle of rumination, worry, and mental exhaustion. So why do you overthink everything? Let's start by breaking down the root causes, because understanding the why is the key to finding peace. #1. You're trying to avoid regret and control outcomes. One of the biggest reasons people overthink is because they want to make sure they don't regret their choices later. You replay scenarios in your head trying to figure out what went wrong, what could go wrong, or whether you made the best decision possible. This kind of thinking feels productive at first, like you're problem-solving or preparing for the future, but it quickly spirals into obsession. When you overthink, you're essentially trying to predict the future, prevent mistakes, and avoid pain. But here's the catch: you can't control everything. Life is unpredictable. People are messy, decisions come with risks, and no amount of mental rehearsing can guarantee a perfect outcome. But your brain doesn't always know that. It believes that if you think hard enough, long enough, or deeply enough, you can somehow eliminate uncertainty, and that keeps you stuck in overdrive. #2. You fear judgment or rejection. Another major trigger for overthinking is fear, especially the fear of being judged, misunderstood, or rejected. If you care deeply about how others see you, you may find yourself replaying social interactions, wondering if you said the right thing, came off the right way, or if someone disliked you without realizing it. This kind of overthinking often shows up after conversations, dates, job interviews, or even simple text messages. You obsess over tone, word choice, body language, anything that might hint at how someone truly feels about you. And even if there's no evidence of disapproval, your mind fills in the blanks with worst-case scenarios. This pattern usually stems from low self-esteem, people-pleasing tendencies, or past experiences where criticism or rejection had a strong emotional impact. Your brain starts treating every interaction as high stakes, and before you know it, you're trapped in a loop of self-doubt and analysis. #3. You're highly sensitive and empathetic. If you're someone who feels things deeply, whether it's joy, sadness, anger, or disappointment, you're more likely to overthink. That's because emotionally sensitive people process experiences on a deeper level. They absorb more from conversations, notice subtleties others might miss, and reflect more intensely on their own actions and emotions. Empathy plays a role too. When you care deeply about others, you naturally worry about how your words or actions affect them. You may replay interactions to check if you hurt someone's feelings, missed an important cue, or failed to meet expectations. While this makes you compassionate and thoughtful, it also opens the door to constant second-guessing. Highly sensitive people aren't broken, they're simply wired differently. But without boundaries and emotional regulation tools, this heightened awareness can easily lead to overthinking and burnout. #####4. You have perfectionist tendencies. Perfectionism is one of the most common drivers of overthinking. If you hold yourself to extremely high standards, whether in work, relationships, appearance, or personal growth, you probably spend a lot of time evaluating your performance. Did you do well enough? Could you have done better? What if you messed up? Perfectionists tend to believe that anything less than flawless effort means failure. So instead of accepting that mistakes are part of learning, they beat themselves up over small imperfections. This creates a feedback loop where you constantly analyze your actions, searching for flaws, and never feeling satisfied. And because perfectionism often masks deeper fears, like fear of inadequacy, fear of disappointing others, or fear of not being good enough, it's not just about wanting to excel. It's about needing to prove your worth through flawless execution. The problem is, perfection is unattainable, and chasing it only leads to frustration, burnout, and endless cycles of overthinking. ####5. Your brain is wired for survival, not peace. Human brains evolved to detect threats, avoid danger, and solve problems, not to relax and enjoy the moment. That's why your mind tends to focus more on negative possibilities than positive ones. Psychologists call this the negativity bias, and it's one reason overthinking feels so automatic. Your brain would rather assume the worst and keep you safe than risk missing a potential threat. So when something happens, even something minor, your mind jumps into survival mode. It starts asking questions like, what if this goes wrong? What did I do wrong? How can I fix this before it gets worse? What if I lose this person, opportunity, or situation? These thoughts aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of a brain trying to protect you. The issue arises when that protective mechanism becomes chronic, turning everyday moments into high-stress situations and keeping your nervous system in a constant state of alert. ####6. You lack clarity about what you truly want. Sometimes, overthinking comes from not having a clear sense of direction. When you're unsure about your goals, values, or desires, your brain tries to compensate by analyzing every option, possibility, and consequence. You get stuck in a loop of indecision because nothing feels certain. Without clarity, your mind defaults to overthinking, trying to gather more information, weigh pros and cons endlessly, or seek external validation. But the more you try to figure everything out mentally, the more confused and overwhelmed you become. This is especially common during major life transitions, like changing careers, ending a relationship, moving cities, or starting a new chapter. Without a strong internal compass, your brain struggles to make confident decisions, leading to overanalysis and paralysis by analysis. ####7. You're not fully present in the moment. Overthinking thrives when you're disconnected from the present. Instead of focusing on what's happening right now, your mind is either stuck in the past or racing ahead to the future. You replay old conversations, worry about upcoming events, or imagine worst-case scenarios that haven't even happened yet. This lack of presence creates a mental fog that makes it hard to take action, make decisions, or enjoy life as it unfolds. Because you're constantly reviewing, planning, or worrying, you never fully engage with what's actually happening around you. Mindfulness practices help combat this by training your brain to stay grounded in the present moment. But if you haven't developed that skill yet, overthinking becomes your default state, a mental escape route from discomfort, uncertainty, or emotional overwhelm. ####8. You were taught to analyze emotions instead of feeling them. Many people were raised in environments where expressing emotions wasn't encouraged. Instead of learning how to process feelings directly, they learned to intellectualize them, to analyze, dissect, and explain them rather than simply experience them. As a result, when strong emotions arise, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, they don't allow themselves to fully feel them. Instead, they overthink the situation, looking for explanations, solutions, or reasons behind their emotional response. But this analytical approach doesn't resolve the emotion, it just delays it. Emotional repression doesn't make feelings disappear. It pushes them underground, where they continue to influence your thoughts and behaviors without your conscious awareness. And that's where overthinking steps in, as a coping mechanism to avoid uncomfortable emotions. ############################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################### this. Overthinking is a way to avoid taking real action. When you spend all your mental energy analyzing a problem, you create the illusion that you're doing something about it, even though you're not actually solving it. This is especially true when facing difficult decisions, big life changes, or emotional challenges. Instead of making a move, you keep thinking, researching, weighing options, and seeking reassurance, hoping that eventually, the perfect answer will appear. But the truth is, no amount of thinking alone will ever give you 100% certainty. At some point, you have to take a leap of faith and act based on the best information you have at the time. Overthinking keeps you stuck in preparation mode, delaying the very actions that could bring relief and progress. ####10. You haven't built mental boundaries or emotional safety. If you grew up in an environment where emotional safety was lacking, whether due to criticism, neglect, chaos, or trauma, your brain may have learned to operate in a constant state of vigilance. You became hyper-aware of other people's moods, reactions, and needs as a way to survive or maintain harmony. That hypervigilance carries over into adulthood, manifesting as overthinking. You constantly monitor your environment, your relationships, your decisions, trying to anticipate problems before they happen. It's exhausting, but it feels safer than relaxing and letting go. Building emotional safety means learning to trust yourself, set healthy boundaries, and give yourself permission to rest without guilt. But until then, overthinking remains your brain's default strategy for staying in control. Now that you understand why you overthink everything, let's talk about what you can actually do to start breaking free from this cycle. Because knowledge alone won't change your habits, action will. ###Step 1. Recognize when you're overthinking. The first step in overcoming overthinking is awareness. Start paying attention to the moments when your mind gets stuck in a loop. Notice the physical sensations, tension in your chest, tightness in your jaw, fatigue behind your eyes. Recognizing overthinking in real time gives you the power to interrupt it. Try setting reminders throughout the day to check in with yourself. Are you thinking about something that already happened or might happen? Are you replaying a conversation or imagining a scenario that hasn't occurred? Does your mind feel restless, scattered, or stuck? Once you recognize the pattern, you can begin to shift your focus. Step 2. Set a time limit for thinking. Give yourself permission to think, but set boundaries. Choose a specific time each day, like 20 minutes after dinner, to process your thoughts, worries, or decisions. Write them down, explore them fully, and then consciously close the door on them until next time. This technique trains your brain to respect limits and prevents overthinking from spilling into every part of your day. It also gives you space to return to problems with fresh perspective, instead of getting lost in the same loop over and over. Step 3. Practice grounding techniques. Grounding techniques help bring your mind back to the present moment. Try these whenever you notice yourself overthinking. Focus on your breath. Inhale for 4 counts. Exhale for 6. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Walk barefoot outside and pay attention to the sensation of the ground beneath your feet. Hold a cold glass of water and notice how it feels in your hands. These simple exercises disrupt the overthinking cycle and anchor you in reality. Step 4. Challenge catastrophic thinking. When your brain jumps straight to the worst-case scenario, remind yourself that most fears never come true. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that this will actually happen? What's the likelihood of the worst-case scenario occurring? Even if it did happen, how would I cope? More often than not, the answers will reveal that your fears are exaggerated or unlikely. This helps reduce the intensity of overthinking and brings logic back into the picture. Step 5. Take one small action. Instead of staying stuck in your head, take one small step forward, even if it feels imperfect. Send that message. Make that phone call. Write down your thoughts. Take a walk. Do something that moves you forward, however slightly. Action breaks the cycle of overthinking by proving that you can handle uncertainty. It builds confidence, reduces anxiety, and shifts your brain from analysis mode to solution mode. Step 6. Build emotional awareness. Start journaling about your emotions without judgment. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? What need isn't being met? What story am I telling myself? By naming your emotions and exploring them with curiosity instead of fear, you begin to understand the deeper layers behind your overthinking. This helps you respond to your needs with compassion instead of drowning in thought loops. Step 7. Create daily rituals for rest and reflection. Overthinking often happens when your mind is overloaded and underrested. Build daily rituals that give your brain space to reset, whether it's meditation, yoga, reading, creative expression, or spending time in nature. Even 10 to 15 minutes of intentional downtime each day can make a massive difference in reducing mental clutter and preventing burnout. Overthinking isn't a flaw, it's a symptom of a mind that's been conditioned to protect you, manage stress, and seek control. But with awareness, compassion, and consistent practice, you can learn to quiet the noise, reclaim your peace, and live more fully in the present. Remember, you don't have to stop overthinking completely to feel better. You just need to develop healthier ways of responding to it. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking everything, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, you are not broken. You are simply human, and healing begins with understanding.